Good afternoon. This Township of Salem Committee of Adjustment meeting will come to order. Members of the public, staff, presenters, and members of the committee, please be advised that meetings are broadcast and recorded and made available on the internet. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary or general nature thereof interest? Seeing none, please note it in the minutes. We will now go to Per, our planner, to announce the purpose for the meeting. Per.
Readjustments holding the theory, the party says, the Planning Act. In order to consider 3 applications for relief. On bylaw 2009, trouble finding one being comprehensive, zone bylaw that we test for so. Prescribed notice of public hearing was provided in the pre-K first class mail to all residents within a 60-meter radius of properties subject to the applications, as well as by signed posted on the subject matters. The notices were also available on the township website. The notice circulation complies with the requirements of the planning. If a person or public body would otherwise have the ability to appeal the decision of the adjustment of the township of Sutherland, but does not make oral submissions.
Excuse me. The audience can't hear you. Have you got your mic on?
It's on,
Okay.
but does not make oral submissions at a public hearing or make written submissions to the committee of adjustment, where the committee gives or refuses to give approval to the application. The person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of that to the Ontario Land Tribunal. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the committee of adjustment of the township of Sutherland in respect of the proposed variances before the committee gives or refuses to give approval to the applications, the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the Ontario Land Tribunal unless in the opinion of the tribunal there are reasonable grounds to do so. If you wish to be notified of the decision of the committee of adjustment, you must make written request to the secretary treasurer of the committee of adjustment, providing your name and address or email address. I guess this mic is very directional.
I think
So the first application is A10-25. This is for 1188 Merlin Court. The variance being requested is to increase the height for a detached garage from 6 meters to 7 meters. The garage is approximately 1,430 square feet in area. As per my report, I find that the application meets the 4 tests of the minor variance. I do recommend the application for approval. We have comments of no concern from the Otonabee Region Conservation Authority as well as the County Public Works Department. Work is also stating that no permits are required for them at this from them for this development. As such, that condition has been removed from the decision, recommended decision on this application. Those are my comments on this first one.
All right, thank you very much. I understand that the agent Molly Conlon is on the line. Madam Deputy Clerk. Good afternoon. Is there anything you would like to add to our planner's comments?
Through you, Madam Chair. No, I think Per summed it up, but I'm here to answer any questions anybody may have.
All right, thank you very much. And is there anyone else that registered that is for or against this application?
We have no one else here for this application, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. I'll bring it to committee. Are there any comments or questions? Member Black.
Thank you, through your chair. Residential use is considered large garage and install, and it's strictly residential use.
Through you, Madam Chair, that's correct. It is a residential garage with a loft space storage.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Seeing none, we'll move on to A1525, please.
A1525, this is for 2810 Newcomb Lane. The variances being requested are to increase the maximum permitted height for a detached garage from 6 meters to 6.85 meters. And to reduce the minimum front yard setback to a detached garage from 7.5 meters to 1.22 meters. The garage is approximately 725 square feet in area. I do find that the application meets the 4 tests of a minor variance, and I do recommend this application for approval. Again, for this application, we have comments from the Conservation Authority stating no concern. including that no work permits are required for this project, as well as no comments and no concern from the County Public Works Department. Just as a bit of a side note, this application is actually correcting a situation where an existing garage is encroaching in the township road allowance. So it will be moved off the road allowance through this reconstruction. And the garage doors face parallel with the lot line, so therefore the reduction in the front yard setback is not a concern. The driveway comes in on an angle from the side to the proposed garage. Those are my comments on this application.
Thank you very much. I understand that the agent, Holly Richards Conley, is on the line.
Good afternoon through you, Madam Chair. For this project, an archaeological assessment has already been completed and nothing of cultural significance was found. And the owners are aware of all of the other recommendations for conditions and are okay with all of them.
All right, thank you very much. And Madam Deputy Clerk, is there any application?
We have no one else here virtually for this application.
Thank you very much. I'll bring it to the committee. Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to our final application, A1625, please.
Final application of the A1625, this is for 269 Carolyn Avenue. The relief being requested is to increase the maximum accessory lot coverage from 5% to 6%. The garage, including sort of a veranda area, adjoining the proposed garage is about 1,200 square feet in total. I do find that the application meets the 4 tests of the minor variance, and we recommend this one, the application for approval. We have again comments from the Conservation Authority stating no concern and no permits required from them. County Public Works has stated no concern, and we do have comments from Carol and Jack Murdoch. Their concern was specifically that they're concerned that a business would be operating out of this garage, and that they've had experience with that before, and having that occur again would be unacceptable. To that end, I can say that this is a private use garage. The property is zoned R1, which does not permit a home industry under as of right zoning. So it would need a zoning amendment in order to get a commercial garage at this location. There was some concern regarding the initial site plan for the property that was prepared by the landowner, indicated shop as a colloquial term for a workshop or garage. But I did have the landowner correct that, and for the file now, the site plan states garage. Once again, like I said, I do recommend this application for approval. Those are my comments on this.
All right, thank you very much. And is there anyone here to speak in favor of this application for Carolyn Avenue? Is there anyone?
Carolyn, I have a couple questions. Oh, yeah.
The podium, please, please state your name and your address for the record. Nick, is the mic on?
It's on.
It's on.
Well,
Yep.
my name is Carol Murda and I'm at 300 Patricia Crescent. Just diagonally across from the property. Just out of concern, can this cause any problems with our water tables or anything like that with this new property or new building?
All right, so you're coming through the chair to ask?
Yes.
And we will ask Pear to answer that question.
So through you, Madam Chair, there's no new, what's the term I'm looking here?
Excavation fixture.
No, there's no servicing for the garage proposed. That'll be a draw on the water table in terms of water usage. Fixtures, that's the term. There's no new fixtures proposed for the garage at this stage. It's just strictly for storage and vehicle use. So
Well, I'm sorry, I was thinking more like the fact that we have a lot of water in our area. That would change anything for our sump pumps, etc.
So Robert may be able to add a bit more on this, but typically at building permit stage, our grading and drainage plan is required to start a building permit application. if you want to add anything more to that.
Through you, Madam Chair, building code requirements around accessory structures such as this would just ensure that the grading around the building itself is adequately directed so that no surface water will affect the foundation of the existing building. As for development of accessory buildings, they're in our municipality, we require lot grading plans for that, except with the exception of placing in swimming pool in that planned subdivision. So we don't have any specific regulation with regards to this.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone that read? Us virtually, this application?
We have no one else here for this application, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. I'll bring it to committee. Are there any questions? Seeing none, I need a motion to approve all three applications. Councillor Henry, Member Henry, Member Black, all in favor. That is carried. Thank you. We have no deferred matters. Our minutes of August the 12th, 2025 are before us. Member Poulos will move those and seconded by Member Boyko, all in favor. It's carried. Thank you. And motion to adjourn. Our next meeting is October the 28th, 2025. Member Henry and Member Black, all in favor. It's carried. Thank you. And council meeting will start in a couple of minutes. This Township of Sullivan regular council meeting of Tuesday, September the 23rd, 2025 will come to order. We respectfully acknowledge that we are on the treaty traditional territory of the Mississauga Anishinaabe. We offer our gratitude and teachings about our earth and their relation. May we honor those teachings. Please observe a moment of silence so the council, staff, and members of the public can quietly reflect on our duty to the community that we're trying to serve. Thank you. Members of the public, staff, presenters, and members of council, please be advised that meetings are broadcast and recorded and made available on the internet. I've asked that all comments, questions, and answers be directed through me as the chair. This includes public staff and council members. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof? Seeing none, please note that in our minutes. We have our minutes of September the 9th, 2025 before us. Any errors or omissions? Can I have someone move them, please? Councillor Boyko and Deputy Mayor Black, all in favor? That's carried. Is there any discussion of the minutes? Seeing none, we will go to our first deputation and Adam, you can make a little introductions.
Thanks, thank you, Madam Mayor. Happy to introduce some new additions to our water and sewer department. First, taking over for Alex Rent as our water wastewater supervisor. Anita has a long history in the water wastewater operations department in general. She comes from Hampton Township as a water operations manager there. Prior to that, she worked for Port Hope as an operations foreman and spent a number of years in the city of North Lakes in the water treatment side of things there. So I'd just like to welcome Anita.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you, and I just want to express my gratitude for being able to serve here. I love this community. I've lived here for over 20 years, and it's interesting how you pass through it. You enjoy the services and the businesses and the vital community, and now I get to participate in protecting the drinking water, customers, and the environment. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Also like to introduce Justin Baker. Justin is our new operations lead for water wastewater. Justin came from us from Ontario First Nation Training Technical Services, training First Nations operators and generally rural communities. 2022 to present, and prior to that, he worked for the Ontario Clean Water. Justin and Anita, great additions to our group.
So just as Anita, I'm very excited to be a member of the township water wastewater departments. Very excited for the growth upcoming. You know, lots of plans for lots of new homes and residents. And you know, after a few years on the road, traveling throughout the province, very excited to be back home serving the local residents. So thank you for your time, and nice to meet you all.
Well, thank you very much, and welcome to you both, and they're important positions, especially to us here on council. All right, we now have question period where there's the ability to take ask a question. Were there any questions that came in through virtually?
Through you, Madam Chair, there were no questions submitted.
All right, and is there any in the audience? Seeing none? No. We will now go on to our municipal reports, and Janice is going to be giving us some part of the Lakeville campground. Yes.
Thank you, Mercedes. Yeah, so this is a follow-up report to the report that came to council in April of this year. At that time, council did give the decision to proceed with the transition of the Lakeville campground operations to an in-house operation. And this is basically a follow-up report for you to kind of flesh out how we see the resources required to support that operation and few steps along the way that we've already started working through. So, as noted in the report, there's been a considerable amount of work underway already to support the transition to in-house operation. I've listed a few there. Certainly, we're getting campers information, we're developing marketing materials, we're developing the forms required for the administration. We've gone through considering the staffing requirements for the campground operation, and then that's partially the nature of this report. Certainly, we're starting outreach to the campers with regard to their maintenance, winter storage agreements, and then in 2026, we'll be looking for seasonal rental agreements and such. Certainly, I think we recognize that the existing staff capacity for the Parks and Rec Department really isn't sufficient to accommodate the additional volume of work required to manage the ongoing administrative requirements of the campground. So there is a lot of administration that will take place not only during the season, but in the off season as well. The seasonal rental agreements, winter storage agreements, advertising and promotion, camper inquiries, etc. So just a lot of activity that is not isolated to the camping season. And of course, there'll also be staffing requirements for the operational season between May and October. And I think certainly we see that there will be some synergies with our marina operation. They are indeed very similar operations. So certainly as we move forward with the transition, I think we'll be taking every opportunity that we can find to maximize efficiency between the two operations. So certainly when we were thinking about the needs of the campground, some other things came to mind that have been talked about by council and through our previous studies that we've done. So certainly I think that obviously we have some current staffing capacity issues. We've had some requests for some further programming support through a resolution that council passed. And we also had an outstanding recommendation from our 2020 Parks and Recreation Service Delivery Review around the addition of what they called at the time community recreation liaison, but essentially another position that would alleviate some of the capacity issues that we were finding and would provide more support in terms of maximizing utilization of our facilities, marketing, sponsorships, working with our community groups, identifying new renters to utilize our facilities and maybe help us with some programming. So that was kind of an outstanding recommendation that we had. So when we worked our way through this, we saw that probably we could make some changes to the staffing that would help us with all of these areas. So the revenue generated through the campground operation will provide us with the opportunity to do just that. And the additional position would be structured to support the whole department in various different ways. So certainly there would be the coordination of the administrative requirements for the campground and the marina, such as the examples I've already provided. Coordinate and promote and expand sponsorships and advertising opportunities department-wide. Supports for our volunteers, our committees, events, programs, beautifications, trails. Just working with our user groups and maximizing the facility use, coordinating programming opportunities such as the one we've been directed Stick and Puck program, and kind of assessing, the need and the ability to offer further programming. Certainly with support to manager with some administrative policy and project requirements of the department, and certainly help to alleviate some of the already identified capacity issues we had with staff. So I think we have, you'll find attached, we have worked our way through a conservative preliminary budget estimate for the campground operation. And certainly those estimates would be refined as part of our 2026 budget process. When we get detailed financials from Marco, we confirm rates and service contracts and all those things. As with past practice, the net revenue received from the campground operation would be utilized to offset other expenses in Department 40. So the attached budget would demonstrate that the revenue would be sufficient to cover the direct costs of the campground operation, provide for an ongoing annual reserve contribution that has typically been made, repay the debt related to the capital projects that have just been completed and significantly grow the revenue available. So that net revenue amount, that would support all overall Department 40 operations. And certainly that additional revenue would be sufficient to maintain and grow what we have traditionally been able to contribute to the department, as well as accommodating that new position that we're recommending that would provide support for the whole department. In addition, it is the time of year that we would be starting to collect the winter storage fee, so we do need to set that rate. So that's included in our recommendation as well. We are recommending just an increase by CPI, which is typically how that rate is increased year over year. So that would be $484, including HST, and that would need to be added to our fees. So I'll leave it with that, and if you have any questions, we'd be happy to try and address them.
Right, thank you. So, questions, Deputy Mayor Black.
Thank you, Mayor Dennis. Thanks for the report. Good report. I really think it's well thought out around the new position. You know, I understand Orca, part of their wages and salaries in their budget would have been for part of a supervisor. They do have their campgrounds as well. So, looking at the budget, I know it's very preliminary at this point, pretty much mirrors the 2024 statements. So that makes a lot of sense. So in the statements at Orca, they had 171,000, almost 172,000 in for wages and benefits, and I think you're when you combine admin and overhead salaries, and you're marked at 177 something. So a little bit of an increase from 2024, but is that going to be enough to cover the new position and the staff that are going to be needed in the actual campground?
Yeah, so through you, Madam Mayor. So yes, the salaries and benefits line in that budget, that's the direct expenses for the operations of the campground.
Right.
What we've typically done is net revenue from the campground has always gone back to support the department.
Yeah.
So with this new in-house operation, we have a much greater net revenue to support the department. So that administrative position would come out of that net revenue.
Yeah.
As opposed to all be directly related to the campground, because it really isn't all directly related to the campground. It's fulfilling quite a number of different functions. But
So
the net
portion of-
revenue from the campground would cover that position, and it's benefiting the whole department.
All through merit. Yeah, so just to be clear, so a part of the new position's salary would come out of that 177, or is that a separate line altogether?
Really,
Not
yeah,
included.
we don't typically allocate administration to our operations like that. Like, there's no
Right.
administration overhead charged to the marina per se.
Right.
So in this case, what we're saying is we've got this chunk of net revenue, of approximately $150,000.
Right.
In this estimate, and that net revenue would go back to support department operations, and part of that would support this new position.
Okay, so the new position really technically is not in this budget at all.
It would come out of the net
The
revenue,
net proceeds, the net profit,
the net revenue for the department support, yes.
The
Bottom,
157.
150, yeah,
It's less than
the
that.
157.
Yeah.
At the bottom.
yes.
Yeah, okay. So that 157 also, sorry, follow up.
Yeah.
That 157 also would have to Oh, that interest cost $15,000.
Finance, that covers the debt. Interest and principal.
so the debt is 900,000. What's the amortization on that? It must be 50 years.
No, this is based on the report that we brought back to council when we were getting the approval for the capital project. And if I remember correctly, it was based on 850,000, which was the tender amount. And it was the 20-year amortization for the docks and a 30-year amortization for the infrastructure.
And that's interest and principal over 30 years. Math doesn't work for me. I haven't done it with calculator yet, but
Yeah.
because that's 900,000 principal be paid back over 30 years,
Yeah, I don't believe it's 900,000, it's somewhat less than that.
800 and something.
Yeah, so that was the same number, that's the same calculation. I just took the number from the previous report that was provided to council.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor Whitehead?
Sorry, no, I don't have a question. I was just going to move the motion. I think it's a good use of the money, the revenue that is coming from the campground. In that it's not only going to support the campground operations, but other initiatives that we are looking at within the Parks and Recreation Department. So I applaud staff for this initiative and we'll move the motion.
All right, and I'm looking for someone to second it. Deputy Mayor Black, all in favor? That's carried, thank you. All right, so we have consent items. Is there anything that anyone wants?
Yes. The pool. Number C, 5C and 5E.
5C, and is there anybody else? I want to pull 5D. All right, so 5C, first of all, that is Harris. And why did you want to pull them?
Just get it up here. Let's
All good.
asking me to download for some reason now.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's system. Yeah, I think it's open here now. There we go. First of all, thanks for the great report. So like everybody knows, in 1993, I became a member of Smith Council based on recycling and garbage. So recycling and garbage is important to me. Just one question. I love all the curricular activities for the month that are going to be produced with the school programs, educational posts and stuff like that. One of the things that we have talked about was to have a reuse building or some structure at the landfill site, and I think that's a great idea. I ended up with a garage full of used furniture when my kids were finished school, and had a hard time, other than advertising and getting some, just come and pick it up. You know, students in September looking for furniture, that sort of thing. So, but one of the challenges with any of those is people using that as a drop off for stuff that really should be going to landfill. So my question is, I know, again, with the Restore leaving the community, there wasn't the pressure to have that kind of opportunity for our residents, but with them leaving, I think it renews that maybe interest or need in the community. Would that, whatever it is, facility or building or temporary shelter thing, to store this and have people come, would it be in the landfill side of the scale, or would it be typically in the recycling side of the scale?
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor. But I'm sure this might be better answered by Public Works, but I can try to answer it. So, initially, as you may have known, we were thinking about that reuse center. We talked to Habitat Restore, the possibility of promoting them instead of having the building now that their service is no longer being offered. We haven't started to look into this reuse center again, just because it's been so recent. I think that the reuse center would probably be on the recycle side of the landfill. Hopefully, I know that they do some pickups and they offer, like, they'll offer to go to people's homes and pick up. So maybe if we had a station at the landfill where people in Selwyn could drop off and then Restore could come pick up from there. That's just a thought, but I don't know if anyone else has, you want to add?
Actually, no, we're gonna go to Angie.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
It's through the chair, ma'am.
Sorry. Through you, or can't answer, but we haven't really come up with a model at this point. There are models that actually have a reuse center on the landfill side. So essentially, the person goes in, they still pay the tipping fee. That way, if materials that are going in and end up at the reuse center aren't picked up or used, then they would have to be landfilled. So that is definitely a model that some landfills should use. So we don't have a decision on that at this point. Now that Habitat Restore has closed, we plan to bring it forward into the 2026 work plan to revive that. I'm not sure if Adam had anything else to.
Adam? No? Okay.
Final follow-up, thank you to worship. No, I, you know, that was my point. There's articles in the news more recently around issues around dumping and And if it was gonna be on the recycle side, we need to have somebody there monitoring what's accepted and what's not, so I believe the landfill scale side is where it should go, no different than you're separating metal into a metal bin and all those sorts of things at the other end of it, so I appreciate that, thank you for the report.
Thank you. And we'll have someone now, if you want to move that particular.
I'll move that report, yeah.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Black, seconded by Councillor Henry, all in favor, it's carried, thank you. And I would like to pull 5D, which is Lane's budget amendment. And my question about that is, when we're talking about these different percentages, Lane, sorry, budget impacts, sorry, I pulled the wrong thing.
That's the,
That just, it wasn't 5D, it was 5E, which is, we're still gonna go to you anyway.
Okay.
And the deputy mayor also pulled that, so if you want to ask your question first, because you had asked for it to be
Yep.
pulled first.
yeah,
Go
we're
ahead.
looking at the, right,
Yeah.
5B, E,
E,
Easy, budget maintenance.
Yeah.
Sorry, budget impact, you're right. Okay, then make sure it's too close there. Yes, that's the right one. Okay, thank you through your Mary Worship. Thanks for the report. I really appreciate getting kind of a heads up on where staff is with respect to their expectations around kind of the base budget increases, which really you talked to here for the most part. Inflation saying at 2.3%. I think the last 2 months we're at 1.7, 1.9, but and some of those big items for us in fuel, which is down, and a few others. So, I think that's a reasonable assumption of 2.3. Maybe it's a little bit less than that. Understand the rate increases for machinery. I think that will help again with the asset management plan as far as that part of the plan, making sure again we have capital available when the equipment needs to be replaced. The cost of living increase 2%, which would be approximately 250,000. So that's about a 2.8%. Are we still going with about 90,000 to 1% in the budget increase? Is that number still pretty much close? So that's about a 2.8% increase in taxation for that. So when I look at the two of those combined together, again, COLA being probably the biggest increase, salaries are the largest line in the budget, and other costs, probably looking at somewhere around a 2.5%, 2.6% overall, just for the base of the budget to move it forward year over year. And then there are other considerations. And you've identified one here, the capital levy, which we've talked about trying to prepare the township for financing the longer term asset management plan. So that one's of interest to me because I'm going to present something later in the meeting around how we can maybe acquire that 200,000 each year without having to go on taxation. It has to do with the properties that we identified that we potentially could sell, but I'll get into more detail on that later. So I thought it was a great report. Again, just giving council a heads up on where the baseline numbers might be. And I really would like to see the budget presented in that way where we have our baseline costs and then where there are priorities for council or for staff and council, such as the increase in the capital levy. That is discussed in a separate item to the budget, and it's added to the budget if council approves 2% or 1% or whatever that number ends up being, as opposed to having everything baked into the full budget at one time. So baseline budget, return, and then any other special projects that we might talk about today can be added to that number, and council can make the decision, to move forward with any of those projects or none of those projects. So thanks for the report.
All right, I just wanted to mention with all the things that we're talking about that are impacts. It hasn't been mentioned here, but we have to take into consideration that the grants that we get from the federal and provincial government don't seem to be increasing much anymore, and we're never guaranteed that we're going to get them. So that's another consideration that could be making it difficult coming up with revenue. So but I thank you for the report, Lane, and I would need someone to move that. Moved by Deputy Mayor Black, second by Councillor Henry, all in favor. Carried, and the balance of the consent items, I can have someone move those. Councillor Koulis, seconded by Councillor Henry, all in favor. Carried, thank you. All right, we are now going on to council discussion on the 2026 budget priorities. As has been mentioned, we don't have an idea as to what we've all got there, which I think is a little bit of
Sorry, we're good. No, we're on good.
okay, which is I think it's a little bit of an ambush. I think, we should ahead of time let council and staff know what is coming forward rather than just dropping it in everyone's lap without no. So I just want to mention before we get into discussion that I think that the process that we are going with right now that was created by the motion at our last meeting isn't really well timed. I honestly believe that any projects or priorities should be reviewed annually at the conclusion of each year's budget, not at the beginning of one. I think that council always has input into our budgets. But I think the time to give direction should occur at the beginning of the new year for the next budget, to give staff time to bring back timely reports well in advance and not just prior to the budget being worked on for approval a couple of months later. We do know about what the prior different plans that we received, the strat plan, the recreation report that we had, even the ongoing reports we get from staff over the year. Council does make decisions as to the course that we take. And then we get the work plans put in front of us that have all those priorities built in, and council does review them on a quarterly basis. So we do have input. We're going to have to, I think, vote on the priorities that each councillor has today to ensure that the majority of council feels that we should be dealing with those priorities. And I think before we can make a decision as to whether we go forward with them, we're going to have to get more information as to what costs would be, man hours that would be involved, and if there's any implications from going in a direction. So having said that, I will now leave it to members of council to give your list, and who wants to begin? Deputy Mayor Black.
Thank you, through your worship. Your early comment around it being an ambush, I don't think is appropriate for a council meeting. Councilors have only had a couple of weeks to try and think about this and bring it forward. So I disagree with waiting until next year. That would take any of these ideas to 2027, a year and a half from now. I think the process moving forward would be we listen to what council has to say, what their priorities are. And we can have some discussion around them. Want to bring a motion forward to the next meeting. I think it gives time to prepare a proper motion. Trying to prepare a motion, in this forum, in this situation, trying to have somebody wordsmith a motion on an item. I think there's time to move it forward. We have budget discussions over a 3 or 4 month period. We're very early in the budget process. And I think it's, we asked for this opportunity, so we could be heard. I'd like to be heard. I'd like members of council to go away, think about the items. If I feel there's support for it, I will bring a motion to the next meeting on that item, and we can further discuss it and deal with it at that point. But to ask council to wait a year and a half to have an item appear on the next budget, the 27 budget. I think, we're here as members of council to do things and represent the residents and people that have talked to us about what's important to them. We shouldn't have to wait a year and a half for anything like that to be discussed and then not implement it, be 2 years away. So my preference would be to have a process where we present it today. If members of council that made those presentations feel they want to bring a motion forward to the next meeting, they should be able to do so. And that would be an impact in the 2026 budget. So I'll leave that there for council to think about, and I'll start with my list of items. I've got 3 different things I want to talk about today. And the first one comes from action item number 1 from the Recreation Services Plan. The township, I'm just going to read it so people are familiar with it. The township role should be the facilitator of parks and recreation services through the provision of spaces, associated amenities, equipment, in-kind supports and subsidies. In support of this role, the township should encourage a community development model through engagement and the provision of appropriate supports to empower its volunteers and community organizations, develop their internal capacity and enhance their ability to deliver services over time. So my proposal in that area by council was to create a not-for-profit special projects $10,000 grant that can be applied to support community groups that want to initiate a new project or promote volunteer growth within our municipality. This would be in addition to the current annual shared grant program of $5,000. The applications could be up for up to $5,000. It could be assessed by staff and brought forward to council for a decision. There are many municipalities that currently have this type of grant. In fact, Trent Lakes is $60,000 a year. So creating a criterion from existing references should be relatively straightforward. We can borrow, cut and paste from programs that many municipalities have for this type of project. And the funds can come from reducing the $70,000 annual allocation community improvement fund, which has about 5 years worth of allocation in it already. They're reserved at no additional impact to taxation. I think many of us have heard the challenges that many of our volunteer groups, and I've met with 2 or meeting with 2 that have serious concerns about being able to move forward. And I feel that those organizations should be focused on work that they do for us, which would be literally hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of horticultural work, those sorts of things, and should not, if they have an idea for something that's going to benefit and beautify the community, that they shouldn't also have to be responsible for fundraising to make those things happen. So I think there are going to be big challenges with volunteers and many of the groups that serve our community well. And I think we have to up our game with respect to supporting them. And again, I'm saying here, there'll be no increase or change in the budget. So we've got 2 others. Do you want me to go through all 3 of them first and then?
Yes, I'll do them. Yeah.
Okay, I'll do all 3 of them. So that's number 1. Again, for the Recreation Services Plan, action item 12, 13, and 14. And again, these are all priority that council has agreed to support moving forward, including staff. Implement the trail classification based on the hierarchy recommended in the recreation. Classification should be used to guide the township when planning, designing, constructing, and maintaining trails. 12, number 13 is coordinate trail development, planning, and funding, and the potential to link the existing trail system in Selwyn together and beyond. Consider partnering with volunteers or partners, including but not limited to County of Peterborough and the Tonbridge Region Conservation Authority to achieve this recommendation. And action 14 was document the current level of service or trail maintenance throughout the township and review the risk management, operational, financial impact of any proposed increase in the level of service. So my proposal there was to, as trails and the improvement of our active transportation system were cited as 2 of the top 5
Through you, just to make sure everyone has their mics on, please.
The mic's off.
Mics on, well, when you're speaking, sorry.
Yes, I'm on.
Your mic's on, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Can I move it closer?
Yes, please.
Okay, and my voice usually is loud. Okay, I'll start over again. So proposal number 2 is trails and the improvement of our active transportation system. We're cited as 2 of the top 5 priorities. Plan. Moving forward on these 3 actions should be commenced in 2026. So it has a larger unique trail system that is both urban and rural in nature and provides connectivity, recreational and economic impacts to the township. Our development plan should be to encourage active transportation through 3 seasons and include selected trails that can be maintained during winter months. I do not believe that this needs to be by external consultants, as we have expertise on staff and certainly in the community that can help consult and make decisions around which trails would be most appropriate for winter use. It's imperative that staff meet with the trail groups and committees to assist in the trail classification and identify those trails that would have the largest impact on connectivity, active transportation, and recreational uses during the months. The reality is many of those trails are being used in the winter months, even though we're not maintaining them. So when we talk about liability, if somebody falls on them and we're not maintaining them, the township will find themselves in litigation either way. So I think it's worthwhile to consider some of them for winter use as well. That's number 2. Number 3 is potential development land. So on December 13, 2024, Janice, our CEO, Council, in addition to staff report 3 attached reports detailing the township's own lands, potential surplus properties for disposition, and real properties disposal bylaw. Potential surplus properties for disposition identified 17 potential properties that would have some development potential and may be surplus to the township's future needs. So my proposal there, and I was a member of council that asked for that report, and that we identified, I think the total number of properties was almost 60, but there was 17 that staff felt had some economic value or potential for development if they were sold, if they had no future use for by the township. So the opportunity to review these properties and make decisions on value and marketing is challenging for staff with respect to time. And I think when staff have indicated that they have time to consider 1 or 2 properties each year, which would take approximately 10 years to get us through this list, and I get that. As we move closer to clearly understanding the impact of our long-term commitment to the asset management plan, funds from the sale of these properties could reduce the impact on taxation for residents. I think everybody knows the value of a piece of property these days. Way more than 100 grand, and most closer to $200,000. So that was my earlier comment with respect to the capital levy for to support the future of the asset management plan. I think selling 2 or 3 or 4 of these properties a year would more than cover. So I don't believe that the internal process that we currently have to manage the sale process through the public tender process is producing necessarily the best results for the municipality. It's got limited viewership and therefore limited bids. I believe that these properties would be best managed through a real estate firm who have the tools to research the best use and highest value. Competitive open market. The township should create an RFI or RFP, whatever you want to call it, competitive real estate service opportunity for the municipality, and pick a real estate company that can take this list and work through it and understand which properties have the best value and which property would bring the biggest return for the municipality. I think this is a fair public process that will result in motivated real estate company that can move these 17 properties in much more timely fashion.
All right, thank you. Before we move on, I just want to make a comment about your last item. I don't believe that's a budget item. I think that's something that could be put into the work plans for next year. That's a priority, but it would not be affected by the budget, because what kind of number do you put in there? It's unknown, and I really believe that that is not a budget item. everyone involved.
Yeah, responding to you, Mayor. I think we have. We'll know what that number is for next year's budget for sure. So we can. No, it wouldn't have been there. It's not part of the budget. It's never been included in the budget before. They've been strictly put straight to reserve fund right away.
Right.
They've never been budgeted.
That's the way that council directed staff. We did, when we discussed it, we did direct that, so they can't make changes and just put it in the budget. So as I'm saying, that particular item, I believe, could be put into the work plans for next year. I don't believe it's a budget item, so to take that off your list if we can and direct it there.
I still think it could be a budget item, Mayor, so I'm moving forward as that.
All right.
It's certainly work plan as well.
Okay.
The work has to be.
So, to the direction that we were, I think, hoping to have so that we can pass on to staff is whether the majority of council wants to move forward with these different priorities. You were suggesting that a motion come at a later point in time, so I just want to clarify that.
Yeah, thank you too, Mayor. Yeah, no, I think this has happened fairly quickly. We weren't really sure how we would handle it,
Exactly.
you know? So I'm suggesting, that we can have some discussion on the points that members bring up today. And if I feel that I have support around the table, I will bring a motion to the next meeting to say, I would, propose, the $10,000 grant be created,
All right.
and then we can vote
Okay,
the end of September, and we've got a decision.
Okay, so, if that is what we're going to do before I move on, we should finish with the priorities that you gave us in a list. So we'll go back to the first one,
Mhm.
which was, $10,000 grant to, that would be in addition to the 5 that we have. And I think we should have some discussion as to whether we feel it should be going forward for staff report or go into the budget for 2026. So I will open it up to the floor. I just want to mention that we also have budget every year, support for beautification, which comes to the tune of almost $15,000 that goes to our different beautification around the township. And that increases by the CPI every year. And it does help with the Annismore Garden Club. The BBC gets money as well. And Wakefield has their flowers, or their we call floral arrangements, water budget now, so it's more than just $5,000. We already are giving 15,000. Just wanted to remind council that we do that. So I'm going to open it up to see if there's any other comments on this addition to the grants from any members of council. Councillor Coles.
I'm throwing a wrench in this because I'm struggling to follow what you're doing here, so I need this information in front of me in writing. So like, I don't know if I need to ask for an accommodation and let's stretch this out time-wise, because I need to review it. I don't know how to go forward, because I need to see all the details in front of me. I can't just go from what you're saying.
Yeah. All right, so.
If I could comment on the process.
Yeah.
Before I comment on what Deputy Mayor Blanc said.
Yeah.
You said in your comments, Mayor Sanis, that this is an ambush. I don't see it as an ambush. The way I see it, and this is partly an answer to what Councillor Willis has said. I see this as.
Please don't speak for me.
Oh, I said I'm responding to, I think, what you said. Okay, I won't respond to what you said. I will carry on. What I see this is as council basically doing what council is supposed to do. I printed this off just in case I thought I would need it, and I want to bring it to attention. The Municipal Act. I think what we are doing in this process is doing what the Municipal Act says council should do. I won't read it all, but in section 224, it says the role of council is to represent the public and consider the well-being and interests of the municipality. Role of council is to develop and evaluate policies and programs of the municipality. That's what I think we're doing here. And C, the last one, to determine which services the municipality provides. I think that's the conversation that we're having. If I skip down to section. And again, I won't read the whole thing, but it says the role of officers and employees of the municipality, staff, is to do three things. And among them is A, to implement council's decisions and establish administrative practices, procedures to carry out council's decisions. I think we all understand that. But what I think has happened over the last 3 years that this council has been around, yes, council has had a say in the creation of the budget. But what the process that has existed for the last 3 years is that staff creates a budget and presents it to staff, to council. We ask questions and we put input, and we may change something or may not change something, and then we vote. So essentially what council is doing is reacting to staff's priorities. Staff's priorities informed by the plans, by the strategic plan and all the other plans. They don't just come up with things willy-nilly. They react according to the plans. But what I have seen over the last 3 years is council reacting to staff's priorities. What this process, I think, is doing is saying, we would like council to have a chance to bring forward what its priorities are. And I agree that we can't decide today. I'm going to hear what everybody's priorities are. I just heard what Deputy Mayor Black's were. That's the first time I've heard them. I can't discuss and vote on those today because I don't understand them well enough. I can't react that quickly. And that's why we have something called a notice of motion. I think that each of the priorities that council is bringing forward is like a notice of motion. Here are 3 priorities that I'm going to talk about, or 2. And I am saying that perhaps in the next council meeting, we can discuss it. What I have done is I've written out what I'm going to say, and I'm going to distribute it to each of the members of council, and I could email it to staff if you wish. Therefore, here it is written down. Think about it, and in 2 weeks' time, we can discuss it and vote on it. I think that's what's happening. So with that, if I am right, and this all comes from the motion that came from Deputy Mayor Black and that Councillor Henry seconded, and then I voted to support. I think that's what we are doing. All we are doing is saying, here is what we believe council's priorities should be for this budget going forward. And I think that if each of the members of council brings forward things that are already within the strategic plan, within the Parks Recreation Plan, with other plans, we can't simply bring, I think we should build a 3rd arena. Well, of course not. You can't just bring things in. But if we are bringing forward priorities that are already existing within plans, then what is the harm in doing that? Now, with your indulgence, Mary, if you would like, I can stop talking now and you can go to someone else, or I could bring forward my priorities. It's up to you, or go back to discussing Councillor Deputy Mayor Black. It is absolutely up to you, obviously.
Okay, so actually, Councillor Lewis had to go because she, if you want further information, well, we can go. I'm saying that even if you bring a motion forward, it will require reports from staff to be able to make an informed decision as to whether we go forward with them or not. And we are now almost at the end of September. We're going into October. I don't know when you think the staff start working on the budget, but our treasurer is in the midst of preparing them now. And if we're to land this in his lap at the end of October, because if you bring a motion and we vote on it, then we have to wait on reports. This is where I'm saying it's like an ambush. I don't think it's fair to our finance committee, our finance staff, or the rest of staff in the township that we start having these discussions as to what we want to see in a budget that should be in the midst of being prepared now. That's why I was saying that I feel that this kind of work, and if you look at other townships and cities, that's how they do it. They start talking at the beginning of the year about what their priorities are for the rest of the year. And it gets built into the budget when the budget is set. We're doing this on the cusp of a budget being worked on. And I do really not think it's fair to our staff to be doing this, because what started off as a discussion and showing a list of priorities, now we're going to have a motion which is going to be voted on. And even if we think that one of the priorities is going in a direction that we think is the right direction, we don't know what the implications are or the costs. And we are now getting into the end of the year. I'm sorry, I don't approve of the process. No, I actually didn't support the motion. So, Deputy Mayor Black.
Through your worship, I don't disagree that there's a process that has to be followed to make a final decision. The motion that I would bring forward in the next council meeting would be to have it included as an item, potential item for the budget. And that's why I mentioned earlier and with Mr. Vance's report that we should be presented with a base budget, and then this my $10,000 grant program could be presented as a separate item. By then, 3 months down the road, 4 months down the road, or whenever we get to that, there would be a staff report that would give council the information that they need, and a final decision on it could be made when we review the budget in 3 months or the final budget that's presented. So it does give staff time to present. The ones that I have, it's a one-page report as far as I'm concerned. They're pretty basic, straightforward priorities within the recreation and strategic plan. There's they're in there, staff know about them, they've known about them for years. How to implement them certainly needs a report and process and, potentially staff time, that sort of thing. But I think there's time before, and they could be brought forward at the final budget. I'm not saying a motion next week would be to approve it. It would be to present it as an opportunity when we do budgets, final budgets and whenever that is in January. So there is time.
When is our first budget being presented? What is, I don't have the.
Yeah, I don't have a
in front of me.
schedule.
Sure, yeah. So our timeline is presented as basically capital in mid-November. And then in December, and normally it's based pretty strictly on timing from assessment and things like that. But it's the end of the first week, second week of December. Talk about impacts and work plans and different things like that. Department heads following that are to have all their working papers completed before Christmas break. And so then from that point through until January, that's when we refine it, pull together all the final percentages and different things like that. And then provide to council, I think, with their future plans.
Mr. Henry.
Thank you, through Mayor Stennis. When this motion was brought forward, last meeting, approved to come through. I supported it because having a communication about what we're doing moving forward, I think it's part of our democratic process. I don't think that anyone's being ambushed. I think there's misinterpretation and I think there's hesitation. Everything I've heard so far is something that's already in all of our plans. So we put a little bit of priority in one area, push something along. I don't see a problem with that. We're still following the plan. Sometimes plans change. last week, a work plan changed because someone donated a water fountain. All of a sudden, public works is installing a water fountain. That wasn't in the budget, that was in the plan last year. All of a sudden, we're hiring staff for a park that we thought we had all figured out with Orca. We did. Plans changed. We had an ice storm this year. That had a huge impact on us. I don't hear anyone discussing it or moving forward on what we should be doing there. But technically, that's not under our strategic planning. Well, it bloody well should be, because plans change. So I am willing to look. Every time we have a new project, even this new park project, we're gonna have to take on a house. We hear about, well, we're gonna have to look for some volunteers. Every project that we have requires volunteers. Our staff, some of them make in excess of 6 figures a year, supported by volunteers. Maybe we should throw them a bone, if not more, to support it, because it keeps coming up. Oh, the volunteer problem, volunteer problem. We keep stating the problem. We're not fixing it. It ranks right up there with homelessness and everything else that the province and the country is dealing with. We're talking to it, giving it lip service, but we're not doing it. I think this is not possible to move forward. If we are sitting on 60 properties, and yes, I know we voted on a plan. The economy is not getting any better. In my household or anyone else's household, let alone the townships. We got 60 properties that we could be moving. We don't have to pay insurance on. We don't have to do any maintenance on. Save us money. I mean, start allocating it somewhere else. If we're just asking to speed up that process, does it create work? It sure does. That's why we get paid. So we make things happen and we shift the energy to different areas. If we're chasing 100 things at once, maybe that's why we're overworked. Maybe that's why none of the projects are coming to completion. We downsized a bit, put some priority areas in place. We can get some things accomplished and move forward with it. So in theory, yes, I'm in support of this. We're just having a conversation. That's what we're supposed to do. And debate it. So that's what comes with this role. And being on the ground, we hear from the people that elected us. There's community groups coming forward, different ideas coming forward. They don't always get to come to council, but we can support them and have them coming to council and see what our people actually want to hear. I appreciate that we're posting everything on our website, Facebook, whatever useless social media tool we're using du jour. It doesn't get us what we're looking for. People are not engaging as much in that as we are. We can say, oh, look, it's up 100%. Yeah, well, 2 people make a big difference in our community on internet. So I think that it is good to have an engaging conversation at this level as we move forward going into the budget season. Yes, it may change some things. And we might have to delete some lines in our Excel spreadsheets. But moving forward, I think that it's a good thing to do. We can make some priorities based upon what is going on now. Things have changed since we started here 3 years ago with council. A lot of us were pretty green and didn't really know what the heck we were doing. And we've learned a lot. So moving forward, I think we should start to exercise that. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to bring any.
So I'm suggesting that people come forward with a motion that we look at the next meeting. Because that's where we're struggling right now. You know, we'd like to see things in writing and yeah, and I agree with her. And perhaps my, when I use the word ambush, to me, ambush is where you didn't see something coming. And I haven't seen this coming because I didn't know what it was. So to me, that's ambush. Maybe I used the word incorrectly, but that's the only word I could think of as to how I feel with this. I had no idea what you were going to bring forward, and neither did the rest of council. So in my view, that's an ambush. That's what folks.
Through you. Yeah, and I just want to jump back to not necessarily the word ambush, but like the previous meeting was about being inclusive, and we narrowed it down after 34 friggin' minutes that we were just going to have a discussion among council. So it's actually not inclusive of the public. But for me, like for an accessibility accommodation, like I actually need this in front of me to be able to talk about it. Like I need to see the numbers. I need to be able to see it in writing, and I need time to do that. So I can't make a formal decision for my constituents to represent myself, my constituents, or the council properly for Selwyn if I don't have that in front of me. The other part of this is that I think the township, like residents would like to see what you're bringing forward too. Maybe they don't interact with you. Maybe they don't know what you're bringing forward. So realistically, like this needs to be in front before anyone can make a decision properly.
And having, Counselor Coolest having said that, that includes numbers. And if a motion comes forward, we will not have the numbers. So it's going to be hard to make a decision. We haven't heard from, well, do you have any priorities for each one?
No, I do not. I do, but they're not like, I need to write them down and have numbers and have those conversations, but I didn't have enough time. 2 weeks is not enough time to do that.
Counselor Henry, and then we'll go to Counselor Boyko.
Thank you, through you. The only motion I would be bringing forward actually would lie outside the realm of our strat plan and our rec plan, as it would involve emergency management. The new bill that was released of how we can work with our resources between communities. So I'm boss with preparing some reports, but it would be nice to be able to work with our resources between communities based upon EMO's new strategic plan that has been launched at EMO this year, how we could coordinate with other communities to assist us moving forward.
Would that be a budget item?
Depends how much it costs to make a report.
Is that your priority?
Emergency management for our community, yes.
Counselor Boyko hasn't had a chance to.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Sanis, through you. I have two priorities, and priority one involves the fire department. And I've put it in the sort of the form of a motion, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. But I think that makes it easier to understand, makes it easier for me to understand anyway. So priority one, to focus adequate personnel and resources to meet the needs of the 2022 firefighter certification regulations of the Fire Protection and Prevention Act, while addressing the challenges of recruitment, retention, and succession. So what this is based on is the fact that our chief has been speaking for a while about the fact that recruitment, and Kim has mentioned this too, Mayor, that recruitment is an ongoing challenge. Retention of firefighters is an ongoing challenge. And we know that there are a great number of firefighters that are over the age of 60. So therefore, succession is a challenge. So that's one part of this. The other thing that our chief has brought forward to our attention, and quite rightly, I believe, is that the 2022 firefighter certification regulations are tough to meet. And some of the firefighters can be, the word used to be grandfathered, now it's legacied, so that some of those, the training is not necessary, but for others that training is necessary. And the chief has talked about how it's expensive and you have to go away from our township to get some of that. So that is what I think a priority should be. So I'll read it again. The fire department to focus adequate personnel and resources to meet the needs of the 2022 firefighter certification regulations of the Fire Protection and Prevention Act, while addressing the challenges of recruitment, retention, and succession. So we need the personnel and resources to do that. That is absolutely within our strategic plan. I won't read it all, but on page 5, it mentions succession management as number 1. Number 2, it talks about supporting training and certification requirements, and including in that is fire personnel. Also on page 5, number 3, it talks specifically, given the impact of the new Ontario Fire Marshal certification requirements on volunteer firefighters, consider levels of service as it relates to technical rescue. So there's that. On page 9, it says consider, number 1, consider evolving volunteer participation and impact on how the township utilizes volunteers to support service delivery. And there's a list that it includes the firefighters. So therefore, I believe that this should be a priority and it should be a budget item. That's one.
Just before you go on, is the second one to do with the fire department?
No.
I have a chief job thing in place.
Through you, Mayor Senis, just let council know that the deputy and I are working on a report right now that will come to council and will kind of spell out a little more of what the process might look like, or could be, or whatever, just for especially technical rescue, and everything else, what the costs are, you know, a couple of different scenarios and what we might be able to do. So that'll come to council in the next month or so.
Perfect. Through you, Mayor Senes, then that is exactly the type of thing that I'm talking about, is a need that we have. So therefore, I see it as a priority that we put the necessary budget into it so that we can bring it to fruition. Priority 2, also already existing within the strategic plan and existing within the recreational service plan. Priority 2 is something that we are already doing, but I would like to make more intentional. And we can make it more intentional with 2 projects, both of which have already begun. So again, this is nothing new, but I could see budget being allocated to see that it continues and is done. So priority 2, to promote and make more intentional the links between parks and recreation, economic development, and community engagement. I see those as 3 circles. And in the middle, if we consider the Venn diagram, in the middle of those of parks and recreation, economic development, and community engagement are projects that have already begun at the Ennismore Waterfront Park and at Isabel Morris Park. So I would see that priority being met in 2 ways: to complete the woods at the Ennismore Waterfront Park, to complete the woods cleanup, boardwalk restoration, and necessary directional alterations, the signage improvements, and deciding if the disc golf course is ideally located, while renewing annual maintenance and marketing plans of the trails at that Ennismore Waterfront Park. That would be one way that we could make more intentional the linkage between those 3 things. The second, a meeting took place last week. It wasn't called by me, but I was invited to attend, as was Deputy Mayor Black and Mike were invited to attend. There were 18 people there, representing various groups, and they were talking about what is in our strategic plan, and that is the location of the creation of a multi-use event space, a stage at Isabel Morris Park. And everybody talked in favor of it. People from, I won't read them all, but the Youth Unlimited, Performing Arts Lakefield, Community Care Lakefield, the Historical Society, the Lions Club, the Road, Jazz and Arts, the Literary Festival, all talked about they would support it and they would see them using it. I was really impressed by the representative from the Peterborough Kawartha Chamber of Commerce, who said this project recognizes the linkage between parks and recreation and economic development, because support for the arts has spin-offs on economic development in the entire area, not just Lakefield, but all of Selwyn. So that's why I said that this has already begun, because that public meeting has already happened that I was invited to. So the second way that we could, as I said, link those 3 more intentionally is B, conduct a feasibility study to continue the process of constructing a permanent outdoor multi-use event space at Isabel Morris Park. I'm guessing that the budget for completing the work that has already begun at the Ennismore Waterfront Park would already be in the budget. I am saying, let's make sure that it is. I am guessing that eventually the construction of the space at Isabel Morris Park would have been in a budget. I am saying, because this public meeting has already happened and there is energy and enthusiasm about it, let's bring it forward to this budget. Okay, so they're my 2 priorities. And again, I won't go through it all, but the priority 2 is in our strategic plan. It's in our recreational service plan, action 1, 2, 8, 23, and 26. So it's nothing new. So those are my 2 priorities, Madam Mayor.
Okay, well, I think if everyone and I didn't have other priorities either. So I think that probably the best way forward with this would be that each individual councillor bring forward your motions as to what you think the priority should be in the budget for 2026. And they'll form part of the agenda for our next council meeting. You'll have to have them into the clerk. When is the deadline?
Sorry, through you, the Wednesday prior to the meeting. So I'll find the date for you.
Thank you, Mayor. I think that's a good solution to the conversation around the table today. I think it's, and again, I just want to reinforce the process that I think should happen. The motion should be not to approve the idea or the issue, but to have it presented as part of a budget option for council to decide. Again, that would allow staff enough time to, if there are numbers involved, if there's, other external factors that will enter that decision, that they can present each one of them that get approved next week to move forward to the budget process, 2 weeks to move forward. That gives them, I think, Mr. Vance said the budgets, the departmental final budgets have to be in by the end of December. So I think there's a couple of months there to prepare any information that Councillor Koulis feels that she needs also to make a decision. I think, and the rest of council obviously as well. I think that gives enough time to do that. I'm not going to apologize for being this late in the year to come up forward with these types of things, but nothing that's been presented today is outside of our current strategic plan. So, it's nothing new for staff to have considered and thought about how they would approach these priorities. And obviously they have their priorities, but I think council's also presented, I think, a half a dozen good ideas that council, again, talking to residents, hearing what's going on in the community, have come to us and said these are things that they would like to see move forward. So I'll leave it at that. The motion will be to have it as part of a budget deliberation.
Yes, and I do believe that our priorities are staff's priorities. I don't
They may
believe
be the
they
same.
have any on their own, that they come up with the priorities based on what they hear from us. So it could, and we can't expect staff to get like say it, a crazy amount of work done in 1 year. Usually these kind of things take time and it takes money too. So it might not necessarily all get done for next year. Yeah. Yeah. That's a cool.
Through you, can I just ask a clarification question? All of these priorities that have come forward, have you stopped and had a conversation with staff before this meeting, or are these just like things you just brought forward? I just want to know if there's a history there that I should be aware of. And then I do have a follow-up after, but I'll leave it there.
Okay, so Councillor Henry, you go first and then.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Stennis. I did bring before council on April 8th, discussions about emergency management planning. And that we were looking for a report to come through as to what it cost us, what we did right, what we did wrong, and how we can move forward with it. So yes, I have brought it before staff and council already.
Sorry, to clarify, I mean outside of council, because I know a number of us ask clarifications of staff through email and have conversations just as we're getting our mail and stuff. So I just wanting the full picture here.
All right, Councillor Boyd.
In answer to that question, Mayor Stennis, I have had no direct out of council meeting conversations with staff about this. But in my two priorities, one with respect to the fire department, it's something that has been discussed at length. And with respect to the Parks and Recreation, Economic Development, Communication, it has been discussed at length. And the priorities of the Ennismore Waterfront Park and Isabel Morris have been discussed. And they have also been discussed by staff, by council, and by the public, because they are part of the strategic plan and part of the recreation plan. So it's not like anything that in my priorities, I'll only speak to mine, is being sprung on anyone, and it hasn't been thoroughly discussed and vetted already.
Okay, because like this is where I'm coming with the question.
Yeah, she's
To the first question.
okay. Yeah, sure. Okay. I thought she was.
No.
coming back to Kim.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that, Your Worship. No, all three items, again, the first one, I brought, the idea of the grant forward, and you know, there's always water cooler talk around these items, around them, and I brought them formally to council last, budget, and it didn't get supported. The trail classification thing, I've spoken numerous times at this meeting, at this table, around the importance of trails and the need for volunteer support and helping those volunteer groups to grow. Again, it's always been a water cooler, discussion. The issue around, turning over our list of potential, real estate to a real estate firm, I've spoken to that a few times already, and again, in private conversations as well. So nothing that's been presented here is new to staff. I'm just bringing them forward. I think of the 28 priorities or 29 priorities in the plan. These are the ones that are important to me that I'm hearing from people.
Yeah, so for me, two pieces here for response there is that, again, if you have all this and it's been brought forward, why didn't you submit it today for information that we could have had in front of us? Because we could have had a really good conversation instead of just saying, these are my ideas. And the second part of that is I would really encourage you guys to go back and watch the meeting and see how many times you have said I.
Thank you.
You want me to go? I mean, I don't know how to respond to that, frankly, but
I can clarify.
you know, I just.
Okay, just a second.
I can clarify. So everything, a lot of things that I've heard today is like, I want this, I have asked for this. And so my response was, have you talked to staff about it to get more information about what you want? Because if it is a reflection of the constituency, there's got to be a history there. These conversations have had to have happened. And so I'm just asking you to go back and see how many times, whether it's just this meeting or prior meetings, that you have said I, and really think about what you're asking, why you're asking it.
Through you, Mayor. Yeah, I mean, if I've said that, that's fine. I'm 100% behind that because that's what people have said to me. I brought issues forward to this council. We only had two weeks. You didn't even feel that was enough time to even think about it and bring it forward. So for us to have over the last 2 weeks, have personal interaction with staff, I didn't finish this till last night. You know, so it is an accelerated process we're trying to do. You didn't even bring it forward to this council meeting. So you have no priorities for the next year.
That's
council.
that's not fair.
Once again, please do not speak for me. Yeah, no,
Won't speak for me.
I'm not speaking for you.
All right, stop.
All right, Dad.
So do we have to have some kind of motion, Madam Clerk, or is it just that we're going to come back with motions to the next meeting?
You do not need a motion because we don't have any to bring forward. So just to clarify, the information, the notices of motion would need to be provided to me by October the 8th. And we'll put it on the next agenda under new business.
And just a reminder to council that under our policy and procedures, notices of motion usually come into a council meeting and they're dealt with the following meeting, which is 2 weeks later. The reason for that is they are in writing and everybody knows exactly what is being asked, and they have the opportunity to go away and do some research and get information back from staff as well. This to me is not the way to do business, but anyway. All right, we are going to move on to this. We have a special council quad meeting to be October the 30th. We have to vote on with Curve Lake, and it will be in Curve Lake. And I have someone please move that. Councillor Henry, seconded by Councillor Boyko, all in favor. It's carried, thank you. And we have something else, Madam Clerk.
Sorry, I do actually have an item of new business. It is urgent, however. So the Ennismore Heritage Art Space Center is having an event on October the 31st. They are applying for a special occasion permit because it's a public event. They need to have a municipal resolution declaring it as a significant event. Otherwise, they won't have enough time to submit their application for a special occasion permit. So council, you will be aware, we've dealt with this before with Classy Chassis. So they typically make a request to us in the spring. They have different events at the property where they get a special occasion permit, and council needs to make that declaration of a municipal special event. So it would be a similar type of event. It's just that when the Heritage Committee went to actually apply, they just realized yesterday that they need this resolution.
I will move it. However, first I just want to say, clearly things have come before council on short notice, and we're able to accommodate it and make resolutions and move forward without large studies or having something submitted 2, 3 weeks or months ago. Yes, I do move it.
Great, second by Councilor Boyko, all in favor? It's carried, thank you. Our bylaws.
Yeah, sorry. Oh,
Oh, do you have other business? Sorry, honey? Sure.
We've dealt with this property for many years, similar issues. So we'll make the bylaw officer aware of it and follow up.
Any other business? None, we will go to the bylaws then.
Thank you. We just have one bylaw 65 to reduce the speed limit on the 5th line from the center line to Hilliard Street.
So with that, Deputy Mayor Black, second by Councilor Henry, all in favor? Carried, and confirming bylaw. Black, Councilor Poulos, all in favor? Carried, and adjourned. Henry and Deputy Mayor Black, all in favor?